I have my colleague Hari, and my name is Kuldeep, and I'm heading XR practice in ThoughtWorks with a few of the colleagues here. So, so I'll walk you through today's agenda. Can you go to next slide, Hari? Yeah. So this we'll have this 30-minute quick session, which will talk about XR, introduce you with XR and why we are thinking that it is moving from nicety to necessity. And we will also discuss where the industry is going, which all different use cases are there in XR, why we are thinking it is going beyond gaming and entertainment bubble. So let's get into the introduction part. Yeah, XR. So it is the broader name is extended reality. But when we say XR, it is really umbrella term for changing any reality. When we say changing reality, we need to look at the definition of reality itself. Reality, by reality, we mean belief. So it is about changing the belief. Any technology which change your belief is XR. Though there are only three buzzwords famous in this category, but if you want to take any category, be it audio, video, any visual, any digital content, all comes under XR. So let's talk about three buzzwords like AR, which is all about just overlaying the digital content on top of the real live environment. When we say VR, in VR we display the content on a virtual environment, and the real environment, physical environment, completely shuts down. Think about a nice movie. You are in a movie for 3 hours or 2 hours, and you are completely, if that movie is really good, you are completely there. Virtual reality is that. Be it using device, be it not using device. So there are few devices like Oculus. They are providing this virtual reality experience. You might have seen this at multiple places nowadays. MR is another term which is coined by Microsoft primarily, but it is in my opinion, it is again AR, but though people call it, it's a mix of AR and VR. How they categorize it is you can really show digital content, and also you can interact with the with those digital content through the environment. For example, if there is a lighting condition, great lighting condition, and that will impact that virtual content which is being displayed in the real environment. So that's MR. Then there is another category which is based on devices like mobile XR, mobile based AR and VR. So we have lot many phones today, they can support XR and tablets. And so those are all our category of AR and VR. You just don't need to really have a smart glass or head mounted devices to really play with XR. Your phone can well support all the XR thing. And then comes the web XR. I don't need to introduce you with web. I hope all of you will well equipped with the web. Web XR is the support on extended reality in your website. You just want to place digital content or 3D content in your environment through your website. It is quite possible. There are a number of tools, and that too possible in your favorite JavaScript language. You don't need a sophisticated language of C# or any other. It's just JavaScript. You'll be able to include some few libraries, and it is there. Yeah, so that's basic about XR. Now let's get into why we say it is moving from nicety to necessity, why it is a need of time today. Now, I'll ask Hari to take over from here, and yeah, Hari.
Thank you, Kuldeep, and hello everyone. Before we get in on why is that the need is arising now, let's talk about two different things. One, what is the impact of global economy at this point of time, and what is going to be the next subsequent slide? We'll talk about the impact on business. When I talk about the global economy, there are two things that I'm talking about. What we call as a double whammy, because any business to survive needs profitability, because unless they are profitable, they will not be able to do it. And the second thing is the liquidity, the cash available in hand for me to make any purchase decisions or for me to move forward. But unfortunately, at this point of time, especially because of COVID, most of the industries are being stuck on this. You take any industries like, thanks to this report, wherein the Roland Berger report has kind of contributed to most of the industries. And if you look at the ones that is on the top right quadrant, retail, airlines, and tourism are the most highly impacted industries. So these industries are kind of, at this point of, are stuck, and they kind of wanted to evolve out of this. They're looking at some kind of rapid, innovative ways of coming out of the crisis. So this is where the need for survival comes in, right? Because when you're kind of stuck, you're not able to move, whatever you were working on a regular this thing doesn't work, you look for new normal things of working into. So that's one area, just keeping it aside. The rest of the industries are also kind of knows or understand that they're not far behind it. They will soon kind of get into the right quadrant. So they also kind of looking at smarter, innovative ways of transforming themselves from the older ways of working into it. So the pandemic is stuck. Now all the industries are looking at revival. If you look at the GDPs of most of the global economies, big players, nations, except for China, which is about positive, about close to 0.3%, every other global economy or nations are kind of talking about negative growth in their for 2020. So to overcome this, let's see what the business is also doing, because we kind of know that the global economy is hit, the GDP is hit, but what is happening to the businesses? From a business standpoint, everything is stuck because the last 6 months, not many businesses flourished except for the normal day-to-day survivals. Anything that was kind of non-luxurious were not spent. Every single industry, like for example, retail, travels, airline, your luxury mobiles, or like for example, your vehicles, whatever that you wanted to make, any purchase decision that a consumer wanted to make went for a halt. We realized that at this point of time, there was a complete change in the customer behavior. And what that change is the way that we kind of started interacting with the social and as well as the world environment. There were days where we used to walk in the crowded places, not anymore. We have a fear of agoraphobia, wherein any crowded places, we tend to be avoiding those places. We don't walk into a mall like this at this point of time. We see that if the malls are really safe enough to even walk in there. And why? Because the fear of germs, which is another thing which is called germophobia. So there is some kind of anxiety, there is some kind of mental retardedness that is actually causing within each of these things, because we are trying to think, analyze on every aspect of our movement here. So which is indirectly, consequently taking us from stepping out. So which is really causing reduced opportunities for businesses to actually interact with us. So which means we are not making any of the purchase decisions that we used to make in the past. We are now looking only for the bare essential things that we really need at this point of time. So obviously this has impacted in multiple fold. There is reduced opportunities, there is reduced production. And because of the reduced production, the supply chain is completely disrupted because you don't get things really the faster rate that you used to get it before. Thanks to Amazon, still they kind of giving you the next day delivery, but not at all the items. There are items which they say clearly reject, saying that, hey, we cannot do delivered because of the situation that is there. And obviously the sales growth is actually kind of reduced. So there's a complete change in the businesses because of one single thing. What is the global economy has slowed down, changes in the consumer behavior as also kind of it. So which means we are clearly talking about things like the priorities for businesses are changing. The priorities in which the businesses is going to interact with you is also changing. So virtual is sometimes becoming a new normal, because not anymore that you have to be real or physically travel at some place to actually make an investment, to make a decision. Did we think about 6 months back or 8 months back, talking about a completely virtual workplace? But that's becoming the new normal. Every single industry, especially from the IT industries and other industries, are also looking at things wherein we are thinking about location agnostic, wherein the travel need for people to come and collaborate is becoming very bare minimalistic. 1 year back, people were talking about digital transformation. Not everybody adopted to it, but today it is becoming the necessity for getting into digital transformation. Digital transformation is happening as we speak. Every single industry is getting accommodated to it, right? There's going for cashless economies. Every single, even the petty walla, shopping wallas, and everybody are kind of getting into a digital transformation mode. And we didn't talk about pandemic-proof infrastructure in the past, but now it is becoming important. We are talking about how do I kind of forecast survive for a pandemic like this? How do I make sure that I revive my business for this? And that's where people have already started looking at automated intelligent systems. And the most important thing is they're kind of upskilling their workforce. So here, what we're talking about is technology is no more a department that is kind of isolated sitting somewhere. It is now getting embedded within your day-to-day normal businesses. It is going to be a savior. So people are looking at some kind of innovative things that can bring it rich. And one such technology is the extended reality technology, because it is going to facilitate a complete virtual immersive experience, which is need for the time. And now let's look at some of the examples that we want to talk about it, just to give you a flavor of how the industry is getting transformed. One such early adopter is Porsche's Tech Life look. So Porsche had an interesting problem because when these were shut and they know they had, the technicians cannot walk in to every single dealership to solve problems. But historically, they also had a very limited set of experienced technicians, or what we call as the experts, available for them. To solve this problem, that's where they brought in this completely augmented reality glasses. So the way that this one works is that the operator or any field technician who could be a novice, it just needs to wear the glasses. And now these glasses becomes the eyes for the expert who's sitting there. So, and for the field technician, both the hands are kind of free to tell or collaborate what the expert is going to say. So which means now the expert becomes completely mobile because he's virtual, he's sitting at one single place. At the same time, he can handle about 5 or 6 different customers at the same time. He doesn't need to walk in there. So obviously there's an improved productivity. And the second most important thing is the faster turnaround time for the customers, because their mobility is kind of enhanced really faster. Because you don't need to wait for a technician to come and solve a problem. You just need to call up the technician, and the technician right away looks into it and tells you, hey, this is what we're going to do with the problem. Go ahead and change this. And they can even instruct on a step-by-step instruction to a field technician to tell you what needs to be done. The second one is that most often, about 3 years back, people were talking about the extended reality technologies were kind of adaptable only for gaming. We don't have headsets available there. That is actually changing at this point of time. And Kuldeep is going to talk in a short while. There's hundreds of devices available in the market today. There are a lot of manufacturers who are coming in there. So it's going to be flooded market there. And just a proof of a pudding for that, an Amazon-backed company, North, which actually kind of brought in a complete revolution in the way that the glasses are looking in. The glasses are no more bulky. They're going to be looking like your prescription glasses, and Google has acquired the company. So which means there's a subtle change that is happening at this point of time, and it's important that we catch the wave to make that change happen and make sure that we travel along with it. And the most important thing is that in India, especially talking about the audience out here, Jio, as you know, has already kind of announced its presence of Jio glasses there. So which means they are going to disrupt the market very soon with commercial applications that can come into picture, wherein people become, the Jio glasses could become an affordable commodity in the market. So it's important that we kind of catch hold of the tide, make sure that we create that adoption for the users, and we kind of quickly announce it there. With that, I will hand it over to Kuldeep. Yep, Kuldeep.
Yeah, thanks, Hari. By the way, Hari is our specialist from extended reality business. He keep guiding us on the business. Thank you, Hari, for taking and covering up why business is thinking around XR. So you see that lot of glasses here in the screen, people. Actually, in couple of months ago, I did one research and collected and analyzed number of glasses. I listed around 170 glasses available in market, and that is just from the Google search. I'm able to get all that list from all over the world. These glasses are being built, and you can think of how much investment is going in this area. And every new glass is better than the previous one. The company who is having glasses, they are trying to build another version, which will be more lighter, more features in that. And closer to normal looking glasses. So there is a race of building normal looking glasses from the corner. Nreal is the new entrant and trying to get and capture the market. Nreal is now trying to compete with most other. So that's how the normal looking glasses are being built in this area. And this is just glasses, but augmented reality or XR world is not limited to the glasses. Be it in mind, you have phone. Your smartphone does support XR. And from the data we have, around 60% people who has their device supporting XR, they do not know their phone actually support XR. Yeah, get into next slide. And this slide is also alarming for us as a developer and software development community at least. See how the growth of 2019 in AR VR world. And since now Hari talked about how this XR is growing from nicety to necessity, this number is much bigger than the previous year, in my opinion. So earlier it was 1400% growth in the number of people working in AR VR. And now that number in this 2020 year, despite COVID situation, that number is still growing. So that is one of the reasons we should not be really at the behind of the curve. So these are the few of the factors. And then the other part is, if you look at the hype cycle recently released from Gartner, their technology like AR and VR no more exist. It was there in the later half of the previous Gartner hype cycle. So what does it mean? Does the technology actually lapsed? No, technology is there from 20 years now, 20 or 25 years. It's not new tech that we are talking here. What does that mean in? It is already crossed that hype cycle. It is no more a hype. AR, VR is no more a emerging tech. It need to be converted into business. And within a couple of years, it is already a tipping point. And in next few years, we need to think like it's not a tech, it is a business now. We need to think like that. Yeah. So Hari, let's talk about what all business cases we can think of.
Sure, absolutely, Kuldeep. That was a good note on this. Like XR has already crossed that hype cycle. Very soon, all the industries are going to hype onto that. And let's look at some of the industries, how they're kind of shaping themselves. To start with virtual commerce, retail industry is one of the industries, as you might have seen in the quadrant. They are the first one to get affected, but they are the first ones to also kind of think innovatively and bring in a lot of changes here. So at ThoughtWorks, we kind of already, if you could follow our Medium articles, which is XR practices, you would have seen there's an article which we have covered on future of shopping, how the shopping or the retail industry is kind of emerging themselves to a new avatar or a new world of commerce. So what is important here, if you look at it, is that there are plenty of ways, because if you look at it, Pepperfry, Urban Ladder brought in this augmented reality, wherein you can actually scan your room and then find out if this furniture can fit in the bill or not. Because the reason why they brought it is because the number of returns were really high. To solve that problem, that's why they brought in here. Now we have a different problem altogether. People are not even stepping out to kind of do the regular shopping that they really do it. Lenskart brought in this 3D way of looking at this thing. So what is actually here is that there is a lot of things that is happening in this industry. One call it is that we did is communal shopping thing as well, wherein we typically as human being a social animal, we wanted to be among with our friends when we wanted to do the shopping. But apparently what is happening at this point of time is that we are kind of hooked to our mobile device. We really don't know what we are trying to do. We're just trying to spend time on the e-commerce websites. What if I can bring in 4 or 5 of my friends along with me to do the shopping, wherein I can get their opinions, suggestions, and make the problem. Plethora of use cases here, wherein I can have my virtual showrooms available right at my home, and I can actually get into a Porsche car and then see how I'm doing it. I can actually do a virtual drive if required and all those things. So there's a plethora of options, as I said, for virtual commerce, but what is more important at ThoughtWorks we see as a challenge is how do we generate this content? Because 3D content generation, it's becoming is more difficult here. That's one of the problem areas that we're trying to solve here. How do we kind of generate this 3D content? How do we make sure that these contents are publicated and available to the market? And how do we make sure that these are consumed and used by the people in the industry? So that's where we're kind of getting in here. So use cases are plenty, but it's about how do we make sure the generation content is readily available to the users. The next industry that we're going to talk about is manufacturing and automotive. We already saw a use case of Porsche in the previous example, but I can also bring up another example that BMW is also trying to do it. In Porsche use case, it was about customer service into this thing. How do they kind of innovated themselves in the customer service? But in BMW, they went one step ahead in time in terms of how do we make sure that the production line is kind of virtualized for them, because they wanted to find out how do we make sure that the production lines that is available to them, the design controls that is there, so that I make sure that I make effective use of it. Okay. It is about how do I create my hands-free designing for my technicians, because when my technicians are there, if they're going to hold on to a mobile phone and talk to there, then the productivity goes for a toss. Now wearing these devices, I can actually work, and somebody can annotate right there onto my real life space and saying that, hey, this is what you exactly need to do. And it also kind of brings in a lot of things like, for example, the QA controls and everything could also be automated there. Another interesting use cases that we actually talk about it is how do I make sure my automotive environment available at my home? I just talked about it a while back, but just to brief in there, a lot of cases that comes in is because people are not able to visualize the color of choice of their device that they wanted to do. Like for example, if I want to buy a car and if I want to look at it, hey, how does the red color looks in there? I wouldn't be able to. That's exactly what the Hyundai rolls out in augmented reality thing, where I can actually visualize the car interior, exterior, 365-degree view just by looking at my mobile device. You don't need any fancy glasses at this point of time. Other use cases that I can talk about it is spatial collaboration, wherein I can actually bring in teleporting of devices, wherein virtual assistant, sales officer right there explaining to me what exactly each of the devices, what are the different features, controls are available there. A lot of things I can try before I wanted to buy. For example, if I want to sit inside a car, look at interior of the cars, everything that I wanted to really see, plethora of cases. And all narrows down to one single thing: generate this content, make it available for the users so that they can start consuming and take it forward. And Kuldeep, do you want to talk about how real estate is shaping up?
Yeah, Hari, thank you for covering those use cases. So XR is being used wherever, primarily the simulation environment, wherever there is a difficulty to create that environment. XR is the savior there. So wherever we are having high cost of producing that environment is our XR is saving us there. So let us talk about other type of example where the real augmented reality is helping us. It is real estate management, where we are talking about big buildings like airports, schools, hospitals, or bus stops. So bigger buildings where managing all these pathways or finding out different thing is difficult in that for new people who come in. If you see that the GIF animation is running here. So this is a setup in Gurgaon where we build our office as an indoor navigation, where you have tablet and you can find different meeting rooms. If new person joins in, they can easily go through to different meeting room, different team they want directly there. And not just that, Google is trying to build a virtual positioning system. Wherever GPS cannot go, VPS will go. And that's how indoor positioning is being built. Not just indoor, with VPS, through image processing and street image processing, you can really utilize that with more precise level. We have also explored few of the use cases in order management and warehouse management, where a person can really go and pick particular order in a really big warehouse. So that is also one of the automation we have tried. Then another important aspect of XR is building information modeling, BIM. You can show what is behind the walls, what is inside the wall, just by looking at that walls, like where the pipes are, where is the electricity fitting is. So you can see internals of that, and that could be really useful for service assistance. And that's how You can build a lot of augmented guide for building. So you can think of wherever augmentation is needed. And then other use case everybody might have seen in property and real estate nowadays. Like if you need to go to property dealer or someone, they can just show their property in XR device easily. Yeah. So you can go to next slide. I want to cover one more use case. So that is also related to, you can link how difficult it would be to bring elephant in a class. That's a difficult part, right? And kids would enjoy this. So you might have seen this Kerala school videos where they produce 3D elements or animal in the class, where a teacher is presenting them from a virtual video classes and all. So this is how you can really augment the books also. For example, so making those the text content is more engaging. You can really do that part. Just scan the book and you can annotate, just like Hari talked about. The biggest part is how to define that content and how to, there is a one part is content generation, which is not a difficult thing. There are a lot of 3D content and 3D designer available to build those content. Then comes to the content stitching, which is stitching that content to the actual physical content to make it more interesting. And then comes content publishing part, and after that it's content consumption part. Currently XR is being only treated as content consumption part, but the biggest part, which is content stitching and content publishing, that part is missing, where industry need to work today. So there are a lot of use cases, but actual business is lying there. So that's where ThoughtWorks is working. Yeah. So let's cover a few more use cases, Hari.
Thank you, Kuldeep. Thanks for that insights on that. So moving on, healthcare. So this is one industry kind of, I would say, slightly little late when to pick it up, but they're already seeing a lot of transformation that they're bringing in. And one such thing that I wanted to specially call out is how it's kind of helping people who are kind of blind and visually impaired, how these glasses are kind of becoming a real savior for them. So not everyone can actually go through this costly procedures, eye treatments. Not everyone wants to go for a cut in their eyes. Not everyone wanted to be on the operating table, right? So it's for those people who are kind of having cataract, glaucoma, or who don't have visually, or kind of visually impaired at that point of time. These glasses are coming as real saviors, because these glasses can actually magnify their, because the cameras that is available for them can actually magnify their visual focal point and then bring in there. And for people who have got reading disabilities, these glasses can also kind of magnify the lenses. You can actually have voice controls to say that, hey, magnify to 10x, 14x, automatically the visual content is available to them. These glasses can also be used in conjunction with your prescription glasses, so that there's a camera that could be attached to it, when the camera could act as your focal point to actually capture the image and then do some kind of optical character recognition or product recognition to find out what is appearing right in front of them. These glasses could also go to a level of extent wherein dark and smoky glass, this thing that is available, you can actually cut through those vision and then find out what is really happening over there. Multiple such use cases. One other thing we can also look at it is for surgeons, because they're actually having a real life on their operating table, and every time they do a surgical procedures, it's always complex, especially procedures that you see right on the deck right now. It's kind of a little complex at this point of time, because you have a live art that is there. Now, what is happening in this industry, it's actually transforming this, where I can actually do a virtual body right in front of me, and I can actually turn out the procedures. So I can get immediate feedback the way that I've performed it. I can get immediate feedback on how am I doing it, my success rates, and the way that I can actually work into it. So it's kind of evolving into a different species at this point of time, because not long ago, wherein surgeons has to actually perform a transplantation or some kind of procedures using a live body, but I have a virtual elements right here at my workplace, wherein I can just convert my desk into an operating table and start procedure. So training, scans, and all those things. So for example, BIM, the building information model that Kuldeep talked about it, the same could be applied to a human body as well. So that I can scan in and find out what is really happening. So I don't want to run in a patient into an MRI scan or a computer scan. The device can be equipped by itself with a computer scan, then it can automatically scan and then tell me what exactly the analogies that is there. So plethora of use cases on healthcare as well that we can talk about it. The last one that I want to touch upon is the FinTech industry. The FinTech industry kind of accumulated some of the things that the rest of the industries that is there tried it out. It also kind of carried it over to the FinTech industry, especially the one that Kuldeep talked about, the real estate management, where property selection and guides. One of the real life problems that FinTech industry is the conversion rates that it had, because people come in and then check out their eligibility of their loan amounts, but then they go to the property and then they end up either selecting the property and going with a different vendor, or they don't like the property and just get away from that. So they're losing an opportunity there. So to circumvent this, what FinTech industry is that they kind of accumulated the complete property guide and everything into one single shot. So I walk into a bank or any financial organization, I can actually have a check my loan or my loan amount, the eligibility for the loan, and then I can actually visualize all the properties that is eligible for me at this point of time. So I can make a selection right there. I don't need to travel to multiple places. I know exactly what is going to fit into my bill, and I can do the conversion right there. Another smarter things that also the FinTech industry started to bring in is, for example, Axis Bank. They did a very subtle change here. That, for example, you wanted to look out for an ATM or anything, you can actually search it out. They give you this augmented reality. They have a plain view and a bird's eye view of this thing, which actually tells you where is the nearest ATM, and it also kind of guide you to the nearest ATM. They also have tie-ups to their restaurants that Axis Bank discounts are eligible, so that you want to search for a restaurant where your Axis Bank card is valid, it tells you the way to that particular restaurant so that you can walk in there. Citibank, another international bank, but they brought into a complete different use case wherein for people who are into trading, they brought in their complete trading environment into the real life space. So you no more you're hooked up your monitor, you have your NSE, you have your BSE, your international stock exchange, and everything lying there in your virtual thing. So they used the Microsoft HoloLens technology to do that. Another interesting use case that you are actually seeing it on the screen, and if I'm not wrong, there's one of the bank in Australia that brought in, wherein you just scan your credit card, that immediately tells you a lot of information that you typically don't get to know. Like what is the available balance, which typically you get to see, but it also can give you graphs of your spending pattern. Where are you spending it? How are you spending it? And how much is the available balance? When do you need to make the payment? How is your credit rating? And every single piece of information is available on a real life space. So the industry is actually now opening up for multiple options. We are actually moving away from the hype cycle, and that's one of the reasons which Kuldeep also talked about it. Gartner did not cover it in the hype cycle because we are now looking at the adoption. Now it's important for us to find out what are the different adoption points are there. How do we make sure this content is available to users? Provide the right set of use cases so that customer feels that these use cases can be embodied into the regular way of working, so that they don't need to make any changes in their life, and making sure that the success of adoption is kind of gratified for the customers. So that's exactly what we need to do. So we need to create that ample opportunities across different industries for users to adopt it and take it forward so that we mature it as we move forward. So with that as a closing note, Kuldeep, do you want to add anything further on this?
I think you covered well. It's just that we need to experiment it well. We need to think, again, saying the same thing. We need to think XR as a business, not XR as a tech. Treating XR as a tech is gone. It is old days now. If some company, some organization is treating and trying to build POCs, so that thing is passed away. You need to move on. There are hundreds of POCs and everything is available. Just try to think of business now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sindhu. Over to you.
Sindhu, over to you.
Thank you, Kuldeep and Hari. for sharing what XR is and also the change in the perception when it comes to the business and the current market. So we'll take a short break for 5 minutes. We'll have the feedback form floated in the chat. I request all the attendees to share the feedback. Yeah. During this break, you can poll your questions. Our presenters will be taking them up.
Yeah, there are few interesting questions being discussed. I was just going through, like whether we can use XR for remote surgery and using 5G and XR. So though there are use cases in healthcare, but still since XR is dependent on a lot of environment factors. And AI and XR is trying to fill the gap, but at this moment, not all the XR devices are actually capable of doing that precision. If you look at any AR core or be it all the algorithm from Microsoft, the precision is not that great yet. The question was around cost. A lot of people are talking about the devices are costly and all. But look at this situation from enterprise size, the cost is now covered. Earlier, we used to go to on-site to start having requirement discussion, for example. And cost of one person traveling to client side is much more than the cost of 2 HoloLens. So in one trip, I can bring 2 HoloLens. So this is how the cost is now justified.
And I use the same HoloLens for other customers as well. So it's already nullified. And Kuldeep, what is the thought on the new players like Nreal? They're already bringing the cost down, right?
Yeah.
So it's like $999 with glass and compute box, and with mobile edition coming in, which is around like $400 kind of thing.
Forget about Nreal. Talk about Geo Glass.
Yeah, Geo Glass. Yeah.
Direct glass and the kind of glass it has will compete. The tech is different in Geo Glass, but yeah, it will compete definitely.
We're already making it available for commercial markets. So cost, yes, cost used to be one of the factors, but I think that is already the gap is getting fastly reduced. So look around, the cost is actually no more a factor for adoption.